Join me on a fascinating journey where I show you some of the techniques used in scale aeromodelling. The insanity continues with vigour, with gusto. What I've got here is one of the wing panels, and what I've done is I've applied some double-sided tape to this panel, this piece of wood, and it is sticky side down, and I've not removed the backing so that I've got the non-stick surface showing up. Then I put another piece of double-sided tape over the top of that, and I do peel the protective film off of that one, and it leaves the sticky surface up the width of the wood. Then what I did was I took some fishing line, and this is 2-pound fishing line, very fine, and I literally wrapped it round and round and round and round all the way from one end to the other. This is a technique that Richard Krapp uses on larger scale models, but it works just as well on this. So you wrap it round and round and round and round all the way down, trying to keep the spacing even. I made it about 1/8 of an inch all the way along. And then you just push it down with your fingers. It tries to stick, but you know, it's not that bad. And you push it down so that the fishing line is stretched right across in a straight line and the spacing is nice. Then you run a blade down this edge, and it just cuts the excess fishing line away. Then you run a blade and a ruler down, and you cut it into 1/8 wide strips, or a couple of millimeters wide strips. And then what you do next is the clever bit. Let's see if I can find my tweezers. So the thread came off up here, so ignore that. I'm starting from here. So what you do is you pick a piece up and you lift the whole lot off, and it's 1/8 of an inch wide, and it's double-sided tape, but it has little tiny pieces of fishing line every 1/8 of an inch going straight across. They are our rib stitches. So I'll just follow the ribs, and you can imagine these are really fine, and they're only just noticeable with your fingernail as you run your fingernail across the wing. So that's the rib stitching, and that's how that's applied. You just make sure it's down, but don't drag your finger because you could pull those little tiny pieces of fishing line off. Just trim it down so that it's the right length. Now what we cover this in, I'll go and cut one now so you can see. What I do is I stretch out a length, exactly the chord of the wing, well actually a little bit more just to give me some leeway, some Blenderm tape. Blenderm tape is a medical tape, and it's a sort of a paper tape, quite sticky. So what I'm going to do is just stretch out a length that long. It's about, I don't know, 25 millimeters wide, about 1 inch wide, and I cut that into slightly more than 8, so around 3/16 inch wide strips, and that's going to be my rib tape that goes over the top. So here is a piece of 3/16 wide Blenderm tape, and all I'm going to do, oh, there's a section there I've missed, so I must come back and do that. So I just lay it centrally over the stitched tape, or the stitches, simulated stitches, and then I just gently press it down. And this is a sticky tape, quite sticky, and it's also got the double-sided tape with the little bits of fishing line on it to help it stick down as well. So just run your finger along there, make sure it's down. Now I'm not sure this is going to work, but it's the best solution I can come up with. Right, I need to go and get my knife. You can tear it, it's only paper. Leave that on the side there. So that effect there is my version, and you can just feel, probably just hear it, that's the little tiny stitches that are being simulated by the fishing line, 2-pound fishing line, little tiny lengths that go across. So I managed to do both wings out of just that one piece of wood covered in double-sided tape, and in fact you can see there's a strip there of 3 more strips left that I could have used. So all I need to do now is cut some more 3/16 inch wide strips of Blenderm and just go over these with that. And you can do the same trick at a larger scale, and instead of using this very light fishing line, use a heavier fishing line, and that will work equally as well. In fact, I say it will because in the past I've always used thread, and thread is squashed, which never looks right. This fishing line won't squash, so I'm actually quite keen now to try this on a larger model, because my rib stitching material tends to squash and flatten and disappear, whereas this shouldn't. However, whether you'll be able to see it at such a small scale, I don't know. We'll just have to see. I'll know it's there, so what the hell. I'll go and cut some more Blenderm, and then I'll cover those, and we're done. There's a neat little trick, isn't it? Rib stitching. At this scale, I must be bonkers, but my friend George done it, and I thought, well, if George can do it, I'd better have a go. There we go. Well, it has continued, and just to show that I'm not being lazy, I've actually now finished the rigging wire on the whole of the Blackburn, and I've got through two rolls of this wire, and each roll is 30 foot. So there's potentially 60 foot of wire on there, and that has just amazed me. But when you look at the intricacy of all of it, yeah, I guess that's where it's all gone. It won't be nearly 60 foot. There's certainly one whole roll's gone on there, and I thought pretty much all of another roll, which would be 60 foot. So it's between, I don't know, 50 and 60 feet of wire that's gone on there. So that's probably added to the weight a little bit, which is a bit of a nuisance. But it's mainly on the CFG or in front of. So it is what it is. That's what we have to do. I could have used fishing trace, and it would have been lighter, and it probably would have been easier. But there we go. So that's all of the rigging wire done, as you can see. Some of it is a little bit not quite as taut as I'd like. The problem is if you get one piece taut, you know, if you make one quite taut, all the others go slack. So you've got to try and find a happy medium. And also, if you tension all of those wires, you're actually putting quite a lot of load into the airframe. So you've got to be careful. What I really needed to do was find a way of maybe making a tensioning device that would measure the tension. You know, use a spring to pull it or something like that. But it is what it is. It's all done now. So that's the wiring done. The next thing I've got to do, in fact, just about the only thing I've got to do, is change the motor. I've got to change the cowl attaching point, because the way the cowl fits, there's a problem, because if you look around this area here, there's a beam here and a bit of balsa wood here, and they are in the way of the rotary motor. So the dummy motor is going to go in there and it would hit this. So what I'm going to do is add another carbon rod from there to there, and then I can remove this rod and this bit of balsa. But adding another rod in there means that on the bottom of the cowl, which I've not shown you how I've attached the cowl yet, but here's the cowl. The way it attaches to the model is using these plywood plates, and there's a little strip of balsa wood, 1/8 inch balsa, that's laid on the inside of the cowl, exactly up against these carbon rods. And then over the top of it, you can see there's a section of 64th ply. Now, because of the curvature of the cowl, the opening for the 64th ply is narrower at the top than it is right up against the balsa. And that acts as a friction grip onto the carbon rod. And that's all it is to hold the cowl on either side. And it's just the friction of it. It's tight to get past the original gap, but then once it gets past the back gap, it's fine. So it worked by accident. I was just trying to put these in just to keep it aligned, but actually they retain it beautifully. So that's all I'm going to do. But I need to notch a bit of that ply to allow for the carbon rod that will come across here, because this ply sits all the way along that beam the whole direction. So I need to make a notch for where this rod comes across. So I need to change this motor, and this is the motor I'm going to go for. Let me just move it around a little bit so you can see what's going on. So looking at the motor, this is the motor I've got in there, and this produces 23 watts of power, which is more than enough to fly it. But unfortunately it does it on a little 6-inch prop, which looks a bit silly. So what I'm going to do is use a nice big 8-inch prop, an 8-inch slow fly prop, which obviously will be, I'll colour it in and make it a nicer colour. But the slow fly prop will go on the larger motor, and that'll give us a much better prop. The proper prop should be 7-inch, and I think I've got some 7.4s coming. This is an 8.4. I've got some 7.4s on the way, so if the 7.4 works, then great. So I'm going to change this motor for this motor, which is bigger. I don't need more power, and actually I won't get more power because I'm not going to increase the current. I'm going to use the same amount of current that I was for that one. It's just going to be heavier. So the distance back from the motor mount backplate to the prop is now a little bit tighter, because this method of mounting the prop, this one had a collet, whereas this one, the prop goes straight on the shaft, and this shaft isn't far enough forward. So I'm going to need to pack out the mount, probably with by about 1/4 of an inch, about 6mm, just to bring the motor forward a little bit. And then the radial, the rotary motor, the dummy rotary motor, is going to be mounted on the outside of the case, and will spin with the motor. So I'll probably wrap this in, I don't know what yet, but something, maybe 64th ply that's a snug fit, and then glue the cylinders to that, and then that way that can be removed, so if we need to. Anyway, so that's the next bit. So you've seen the rigging, you've seen all the wire. That is all that I have left of the wire. That one piece, I used it all. I'll tell you, offcuts and, well actually no, just found another bit. There's a longer bit. So that's it, that's all I got left. So there you go, just a brief update, a quick look at how it is. Let's flip it over and have a look at the upper surface. It's far more robust now. The wings are nice and sturdy, and they don't wobble or move around or anything. They're great. And there you get a look at it in its glory. But there you go. That's the model at this point. So I need the rotary cylinder now to really get on with that, and I've got to paint the pilot figure, which I don't think I showed you how I made the pilot, but that'll be subject of another video, I think, but another short one. Okay, well that's it for now. If you've enjoyed the video, please click like and subscribe. More on the next one.